For Sunday, November 5th, you found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda today, the mayor's race in Atlanta is in the home stretch. There's a school crisis in Fulton County in the city of Atlanta, and Roy Barnes rakes in the bucks. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And we're glad you're with us on this Sunday. This is it for us. This is a big program because the mayor's race is Tuesday, not to speak of other elections around the state, but the Atlanta mayor's race has captured our attention, and we can't get enough of it. So let's try to approach this in an analytical way. And I want to begin with sort of how the candidates have positioned themselves. Mary Norwood is the Energizer Bunny. Commercials that lack substance just show that she cares.
Get in her shoes.
And that she's around. Keisha Lance Bottoms is a Democrat, supported by Kasim Reed. Caesar Mitchell is a serious guy about serious issues. And Vincent Fort, to my amazement, wants an inspector general. All right, so we've kind of positioned them. Now, we've left out a couple, but we can get to them. Those are the public faces. What are the attack lines, Jeff?
Well, you know, the attack lines are coming primarily at those two folks who are expected to be in the runoff. And of course, that's Mary Norwood, who's been attacked by multiple candidates in the race, and Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is under severe attack from candidates seeking that #2 spot that she seems to clearly hold.
What are they attacking her on?
Well, they're attacking her on all kinds of things, anything, but most notably, as we've seen in the paper this morning, contributions from airport vendors and things of that sort, as if airport vendors are, by virtue of being airport vendors or subcontractors or African American, criminals. And we know that they're not,
they generally
and that
are
they have a
criminals.
right, and that they have. We know that they are not criminals, and that they have a right to participate in the electoral process. We see on the state level vendors who do business with the state of Georgia participating in state elections, and city vendors have the right to do the same
so
in local elections.
what is the attack line on Caesar Mitchell? I don't see an attack line on him.
Well,
he's city council president. His campaigns, his commercials are very serious.
The mayor has attacked him on ethics claims that he didn't disclose properly some of his financial dealings and disclosure reports. And that's primarily the attack. The mayor and the mayor have been going back and forth for some time now in terms of their disagreements about many things. And so that's the primary, I think.
And then we come to the second tier of candidates, Peter Amon, who popped up for a while there, Phil, but we haven't seen much of him lately. And Kathy Woolard's still got $1 million in the bank or something like that. And really, as we speak on this Sunday before a Tuesday election, Kathy Woolard isn't the presence I had thought she would be.
I'm surprised, having looked at it the Friday before the Tuesday, that Kathy Woolard has all that money left. Generally, you want to spend most of your money to get in that #2 slot that we're talking about. I think Peter Emmons, as I mentioned the last couple of weeks, is stuck in neutral. I do think that, yes, it's a Norwood, Keisha Lance Bottoms race, but I think the bottom line is the attack line on Keisha Lance Bottoms. If you want a third term for Kasim Reed, you should vote for her. If you want someone else, you should vote for Mary Norwood. And I think hanging over all of this is the ongoing federal contractor bribery probe that snared recently.
There is the elephant in the room.
That's
Not one of you mentioned it.
It is the elephant in the room, and I think I made reference to it. But if you want a third term of Kasim Reed, as you said, then you want a third term of a $200 million savings account for the city of Atlanta that didn't exist 8 years ago. You want multiple increases in our credit rating. You want 8 more years of no property tax increases. You want 8 more years of no water increases. You want 8 more years of the kind of job creation and growth.
Well, you know, he's done some good
people
things.
moving into the city of Atlanta
Jeff,
that has been unprecedented
during
our generation.
So
if you want 3 more, if you want a third term of Kasim Reed, you're right. That's what you're going to get.
We get the idea, but I will say this: the corruption that is inherent in the cronyism and the Reed
You
City
don't
Hall is
know
terrible.
anything about
Oh,
any
I do.
No, you don't.
Have you
no,
ever
you
heard of
don't.
the
All you know is
procurement?
what you're reading in the
You
newspaper.
ever heard of the procurement
All you know is
officer?
what you're reading in the newspaper.
Yeah, who was
One
arrested
guy,
for bribery.
one person.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
come on. Don't
What?
just don't try to blow by this. You have a federal prosecutor saying corruption in the city of Atlanta and the airport
And
is
I
prolific.
will say on this show, I will challenge that federal prosecutor to produce an indictment
Well, I think he will.
worth a damn, because up to now they have not.
They have not.
He'll
However,
be coming through.
I do think that Caesar, since I've already sort of given my opinion about his candidacy, has been the one to speak up on this issue and to ask there be a moratorium on outletting contracts
He has,
until,
and-
and except for necessary ones that need to go.
And on the contrary, Keisha Lance Bottoms has taken $300,000 in campaign contributions from people who do business with the city. I know
How
there's-
much money has Casey Cagle and the other Republican candidates for governor taken from people who do business with the state of Georgia?
We don't know yet.
Well, you're going to find out, and it's going to be a lot more than $300,000. So don't make it sound as if Keisha Lance Bottoms is doing something that isn't commonplace
All right,
in politics
so
on the local, state, and federal level.
You do know that the airport contracts are under investigation. That's what we all know.
And so people who are not under investigation, Phil, who work at the airport or do business at the airport have no right to participate in
say
the
that.
electoral process?
No one has said
That's
that.
what it seems you are both saying.
That's a great talking point, but no one said that.
Well, that's what it seems like you're saying.
Well, so we're conceding Mary Norwood one of the spots in the runoff. And we seem to be conceding another spot in the runoff to Keisha Lance Bottoms because of the support of Kasim Reed, good fundraising, pleasant personality, effective TV commercials. But isn't it possible that the polls could be wrong like they've been wrong ever since Donald Trump, and that perhaps Caesar Mitchell could sneak in? Who's your dark horse?
You
here?
know, I'm gonna
real
tell you.
quickly, your dark horse to get into the runoff.
Oh.
Well, I think Caesar clearly has a shot, and Vincent Ford too. I mean, for that matter.
There you go. What do
You know,
what do
so
you
we
think,
can't. We
Jeff?
know that we can't. We know that we can't rely on polls the way we've relied
so
on
who's
polls
your
in the
dark horse?
past. I mean, we had a poll where 70% of the respondents were on landlines. I mean, that is a poll that clearly is.
So who's your dark horse for the runoff?
It could be anybody. It could be Caesar. It could be Peter Amon. It depends more than anything on turnout
Yes.
and
Well,
who turns
And it's
out.
not going to be big turnout.
And I agree.
And Phil, who's your
It's
dark
turnout.
horse?
I'm going to go with Caesar Mitchell. I think he still has a coalition of
It's funny, I agree
prominent
with you.
black and white business people, especially. I do think, as we talked last week, there's still an undecided block that can go either way and tip perhaps a dark horse.
And the thing about that large undecided block is whether or not they go to the polls at all. They haven't made up
Right.
their minds. They may not make up their minds. It's been sort of a lackluster race as far as mayoral races go, and we've seen a lot of them.
It's true. That's a very good
Well,
point.
and I think people have been so overwhelmed by the number of candidates that are there, and not to mention John Eves. I forgot about him.
That's
He's
right.
also a potential.
Well, that's pretty easy to do, except that he's got a school crisis that we're going to talk about later.
Right, but I'm just saying there are so many candidates in the race who actually could do the job and be well qualified, including people like Kwanzaa Hall, who's been a
That's right.
champion for
There
his
you go.
downtown district. I mean, so it's really been a difficult thing for people, and I hope they won't just throw up their hands and say, I'm not going to vote at all.
Well, there is one line of thought. We got to get out. There's one line of thought that turnout will be low because there are so many candidates. People haven't made up their mind that it's a really large undecided block, and that people are willing to wait for a runoff to see which side they choose up on. I'm not sure I subscribe to that, but that is one school of thought. But I'm with you, Phil. I think as we leave this segment and this race, corruption is the overriding issue. It's
Right.
what's on the minds of the voters, and that's why I don't concede that spot in the runoff quite yet to Keisha Lance Bottoms, because you wonder how people aren't thinking like we are. All right, we got to get out. When we come back, we've got other races on the ballot Tuesday. We've also got a really serious school crisis, as I mentioned, involving John Eves and others. We'll talk about those when we return.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
I want to quickly turn to some other major races on the ballot on Tuesday before we get to that school situation in Fulton County and the city of Atlanta. First of all, the Fulton County Commission chairman is up for grabs, with John Eves having resigned to run for mayor. And Rob Pitts, a Democrat, familiar name. Keisha Waits, another tax delinquent on the Democratic side, and a Republican, Gabe Sterling, who's been a councilman in Sandy Springs. Fulton County vote is pretty even between Republican and Democrat, with an edge to the Democrats. Does Rob Pitts win this thing outright, or is there a runoff because enough people vote for a tax delinquent?
Well, I'll take a stab at that one. I think there will be a runoff. I don't think Rob Pitts can hit that 50+1. And then when you look at the Republican vote, again, what's going to pump up your Republican vote in Fulton County? There's a hot mayor's race in Roswell. There's city council races. You've got in Johns Creek and Alpharetta, which are Republican areas. And
yeah, but the Atlanta mayor's race is going to really
the Atlanta, well, and that's the other side of the coin. But all Gabe Sterling needs to do is just get in that runoff.
Well,
if he gets in the runoff, he's going to lose.
Well, we don't know.
Rob Pitts is
Again,
win
it goes back to what we talked in the previous days, turnout.
And
that's right,
right,
Alexis.
and then you've got turnout right there in the middle of the Christmas.
But the Sterling strategy is just to get in the runoff.
well, you see, we're going to find out how many people are angry about the property tax increases and the failure of the county to mail their tax bills on time.
Well,
None of these guys have anything to do with that. I mean, they were not responsible for it.
Yeah, but Rob Pitts, in my opinion, foolishly says that I'm going to phase in the tax increases. No, we want to cap tax increases, which is what Sterling says.
All right, in DeKalb County, it is important there.
There
are 3 ballot items, all involving a 1-cent sales tax. We've talked about it before. It would take the current sales tax and give it all to property tax relief. The second item would create a new 1-cent sales tax just for roads and general infrastructure repairs. The third one would freeze property taxes permanently, which is what Fulton ought to do.
Right.
And they all have to pass, Jeff.
Yes.
This is a test of the credibility of Michael Thurmond, in my view. And I think he's a popular guy, and I think this might pass.
And I think it's going to pass. I think that it's going to pass because of restored trust in DeKalb County government and the election of Michael Thurmond. And people think that people have the confidence. I think in DeKalb County, folks have confidence in him to pull this thing through. And it is important that we do this. It's the first special local option sales tax that DeKalb County has ever had. And they haven't been able to do it because DeKalb has been one of those counties that has borne the brunt of other taxation. For instance, MARTA, while Cobb, Gwinnett, others have been able to do SPLOS for roads and other improvements.
So the 400...
DeKalb haven't been able to do this. This is the first time.
That's why DeKalb has 400 miles of roads that need paving.
Right.
They have buses and trains, but they have those 400 miles. That's exactly right.
And then most of that is, of course, because of mismanagement and misallocation of budget and failing to budget to fix roads. Why don't you fix the budget?
And I think it's because we have a region that doesn't support mass transit. We have a region that doesn't support MARTA, and DeKalb has had to. And we have a region that doesn't support Grady.
Now, Phil, you mentioned a Senate race. It runs from Smyrna to Sandy Springs, through Buckhead.
That's right.
Very odd district.
It is.
It is Republican, but leaning a bit Democratic these days. How do you see that race? Good candidates.
Yes, that's the seat that Hunter Hill left to run for governor, and you've got 3 Democrats and 4 Republicans, I believe. I think that Leah Aldridge seems to have won the sign war in a lot of the areas. if signs are any indication, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. And you've got a couple Democrats there, Jen Jordan and Jaha Howard.
And now how you say it? Is it Jaha?
It is.
Why isn't it Jay?
I have no earthly idea. But I will say this, that that's gotten dirty between the 2 Democrats. And Howard actually was a traditional Christian, and Jordan has attacked her for his traditional Christianity. And I think that's pretty dirty. But there'll be a runoff in that one.
Okay. And in Athens, it's interesting. Watch this one. There's a young Republican named Houston Gaines, who's raised $250,000 to run for a state house seat in Athens. He's against a Democrat who has not raised much money, and we'll keep an eye on that.
And the Democrat mayor of Athens is supporting the Republican.
Now let's go to the
Republican.
Let's go to
what
any other Sunday would be our major story.
She got kicked out of the Democratic Party.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just following up on the Athens. The mayor there for supporting Gaines got kicked out of the Democratic Party for doing so.
Right, and I'm sure she's not losing any sleep over that.
Probably not.
Anyway,
she's going to go home after she finishes.
Look, any other week, the lead story would be the school thing. Now we're hampered by deadline. A DeKalb County judge is going to rule on Friday as to whether Fulton County would be allowed to collect taxes. Isn't that amazing? This is a monumental foul-up on behalf of government, and we don't know how it's going to turn
By
out.
the Board of Assessors of Fulton County.
And the county commission, and John Eves, and every elected official.
Well, no, they made a
Elected
ton of
official.
mistakes. Everyone admits that, including the board.
You always have an opportunity to appeal. They always make mistakes on assessments, but they did their job.
But this
and they
week,
did it on time.
this week, the school superintendents of both Fulton County and Atlanta said the unthinkable: we may have to shut down school because they don't have any money coming in. Atlanta's working on borrowed money. How about the city of South Fulton, the new city?
Right.
They got nothing. They're borrowing money now.
Right.
And not getting any tax relief. I mean, this is a very bad story. This is a total abdication of leadership by John Eves and every member of the Fulton County Commission, and this vaunted county manager, Dick Anderson, is that his name?
Yes.
Well, what about
This guy's supposed to be so good. How did he end up in a mess like
what about the
this?
state legislatures that impose a no tax increase rule on the whole county?
Well, to go back to what
Which is
happened,
part
and
of the
to
series
finish
of
the story,
events,
though,
unfortunate events,
the
right.
commission got bad legal advice on going with some archaic 1880s law that they were hanging their hat on.
Well,
And,
I mean, they were responding to public opinion and
They
public
were.
opinion around these things. Isn't that right?
Instead of the law.
Instead of the law, and instead of following the law, which required these assessments, the assessments were higher. Phil and his neighbors got upset, started calling Fulton County, and now they're throwing rocks at the commission for doing what they wanted them
No.
to do,
All right, we
which
gotta
was
get
to
out.
freeze
We gotta
taxes.
get out.
now, however, you and I have always agreed on the millage solution.
Well, closing the
Never
schools.
We have.
Why didn't they
Closing
do
the
that?
schools.
They can still do that. Can they still do that? Is it
Sure.
time?
Closing
Sure.
the schools is unthinkable. So what will happen is a judge will give them an order to temporarily
Collect.
resume tax collections.
I think that's what's
and
gonna happen.
sort it out later.
and then you have to pay
it's-
sometime in December.
And it's a DeKalb County
John
judge
Eves blamed the
because
state and Republicans for his own failings. I thought that was fascinating. All right, we got to get out. When we come back, there's some warning signs about finances in Cobb County. We'll tell you about that. And Roy Barnes, he of the big ticket meter, he's back. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
We throw this in quickly as a cautionary tale. The Marietta Daily Journal this week was reporting that Cobb County's budget is showing some stress. They've apparently spent their reserves. They've been living on their reserves. And looking at it, it looks to me like Cobb County's facing a property tax increase. I never thought I'd hear that.
Well, you remember Chairman Mike Boyce over in Cobb had voiced concerns that we're going to have one, and that it got voted down earlier this year. And of course,
He is a Republican, correct?
he is a Republican. But remember what happened?
They gave away the
Cobb
store
County.
when they
Did you say that
invited-
again? They gave away the store.
And they invited the Atlanta Braves to come in.
they're paying for a lot of that infrastructure and remember that bridge over 285. You know, it's. The chickens have come home to roost, if
This
I
is
may use a
blame Tim
cliche.
Lee. I see. All
Yeah, let's
right.
blame Tim Lee.
Now, a week ago, we said on the broadcast that Secretary of State Brian Kemp was very upset with Kennesaw State University and saying nasty things about them because they allegedly erased the record of the last few elections off a hard drive.
When allegedly they admitted to wiping the server.
It turns out they did wipe it, but they kept the records.
The FBI has a copy.
Exactly. So Brian Kemp said, never mind. It was amazing. He praised the people at Kennesaw State.
Well,
I thought he was Emily Latella there. He said, never mind.
he's criticized them, but he's praised them, but he's pointed out that he has no control over them, and now they're going to shut down, rightly so, this KSU election center.
And so, because the state attorney general is compromised and the secretary of state, is
Well, the state attorney general has a conflict of interest. I think there's been some confusion. I mean, the attorney general argues he cannot effectively represent the secretary of state's office as well as a state taxpayer-supported
that's
entity
what I
like
mean.
KSU.
That's what I mean.
It's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, he's compromised with a conflict of interest.
Set up by the Secretary of State.
So suddenly the state has hired the law firm of Roy Barnes, the former governor, who's a Democrat, and he's a terrific lawyer. You just mentioned that.
Right.
We don't know how he got picked or why he got picked.
That's our mission for next week, is find out how you pick
that
the attorney.
process works.
Right.
But having had some experience with Roy Barnes and some of these things, like the incorporation of Dunwoody and whatnot, it'll be interesting to see the rate he charges. I'm always fascinated by his hourly rate.
And you get fixated on his hourly rate, only if you find out that he invoices annually.
Yeah. Is that good or bad? I don't
You
know.
know, it depends on how much sunshine you're
It
looking
could be a hit on the budget. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, test scores. I don't like to do this, and we don't really know, but it looks as if the state's school children are testing better. Looks like there's improvement across the board. I was dazzled by the numbers in Fulton County. Even DeKalb County showed some improvement, especially in the troubled schools that were at risk of
All the
takeover.
schools did.
I didn't see Atlanta's numbers. I don't know
They
before
all
we taped.
improved too, and particularly the ones that have been in trouble too. They all increased.
There was some improvements in the Atlanta schools. The sad thing that we've all, talked about and addressed is the bad graduation rate in the state. And now I know that it doesn't have anything to do with these test scores that show improvement, but we've got to work on keeping those kids in school and graduating.
Great.
Well, and we should mention, by the way, that Governor Deal, though he's been traveling a bit, did mention this past week that his coming priority for the General Assembly is going to be these dual enrollment programs and technical schools, and aiming our students at the kinds of jobs that the state lacks now. He uses welders all the time as an example, but
You know, when you go back over the governor's legacy, I think that you're going to see that those are the kinds of things that really stand out. One is education and trying to get some equity in education. He's worked hard at that. The other one, obviously, is criminal justice reform, which I think that he's done a really good job on. And there's no question that the two intersect.
Yes.
all right, we have to get out. Phil, do you notice that Jeffrey has a calculator there on his? You know what he's been doing during the breaks?
Trying to figure out Roy Barnes's invoice?
No. He's figuring out the wonders, the virtues of the Republican tax reform bill in Congress, and how much it's going to save him and his family.
And how much it's going to help the middle class, both black and white.
I don't know if Jeff's still middle class. He might be upper class.
This is the conversation that Republicans have among
I
themselves.
guess so.
We're including you. We're
Well, you
including
certainly
you.
have some things that you
But y'all are
need
both
to
going to get a lot of
resolve.
money. You're going to make a lot of money on
I
this.
don't think so.
boy.
It doesn't sound like it to me.
That's
We have to
fine.
get out when
Gonna
we come
cost
back.
us money.
Winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And remember us on Facebook. And remember, we have our own YouTube channel, The Georgia Gang. And sometimes the program's even up before you see it. The miracles of television or pixels.
And Dick, for this broadcast, remember, we've got to change our clocks, too.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
This is the
Don't they go
first
back?
fall back.
Fall back. That's right. Okay. Jeff, what do you have? Winners and losers.
Winner is Keisha Lance Bottoms for
I see.
coming in either first or second in the mayor's race. I think that she is an excellent candidate. She's going to make an excellent mayor if elected. I don't say that just because of the news clips or because somebody else thinks so. I've worked with her. I saw her manhandle the Braves over there at the Rec Authority. She's done a great job trying to
How did
extend
that
the
work out?
boundaries. It worked out really well because she came in after the fact and she made sure that they didn't take stuff out of there that belonged to the taxpayers. She represented the taxpayers throughout that deal. She made sure it got closed on time so the taxpayers never had to pay a penny to mothball that facility. She handled it really well.
She also double dipped
But here's
and
the
took
other
two
thing
public.
that she did.
She took two public salaries
And
at
she
the same
did a
time.
good job at both.
She's a
and here's the
double
other
dipper.
thing that she did. She expanded the boundaries of the city in a way that we really need to, and not just in a way that benefits her, but she did it on the south side, and she supported it in Emory as well.
Okay,
She's
Alexis.
my winner.
Okay, congratulations for your winner, and we all know that Caesar Mitchell is going to be the new mayor, so maybe he'll find a place for her to help him do the city's work. I'm sorry, that was not nice.
Well, no, he doesn't double dip. He's got a city council salary and he's a lawyer.
Yeah,
he's
but
okay.
He's a good guy.
He didn't have
yeah.
two public salaries like Keisha Lance Bottoms did.
Okay, well, okay, all right. My winners, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege and salute both my parents. This past week, I was able to tell my dad's story about his experiences in World War II at a special program at the temple that was sponsored by the United States Holocaust Memorial Council. My dad was a photographer and was present at the liberation of Buchenwald, and I was able to share his story. And today is my mom's birthday. She's 94. So happy birthday, Mom.
94.
Good for her. Phil.
Well, the University of Georgia, my alma mater, #1 in the college listings this week. That's refreshing. Got another winner that might surprise you, former President Jimmy Carter. I think that he's to be commended for agreeing with President Donald Trump by saying that there's so much unfair news coverage. Let's have more balanced coverage. And I was interested to see as a winner J.D. Van Brink, the Marietta-based Georgia Tea Party. They endorsed the completion of Plant Vogtle, which we need for electrical sustainability and reliability. So
It's in the tax bill, too.
that's right.
That's good. All right, my quick winner, Coca-Cola. How about Georgia Peach Cola? I don't drink the sugared varieties, but I'll try that one. And the Falcons today on Fox, 1 o'clock, versus the Scam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. So be sure and tune in for that, and we'll see you next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.